Welcome to the Human Momentum Podcast. I'm your host, Erik Schabert. I created this podcast to leverage 12 years of osteopathic medical training and over a decade of experience in primary care medicine to help sort through the confusing and sometimes contradictory health information found on the internet. I want to distill all this information down to a form that you can use every day to optimize your health as you move forward through life. So if you are looking to get to life's finish line with the ability to do the things you love intact, then this podcast is for you. If this is your first time here, please don't forget to smash the subscribe button and throw us a like as well. It really helps us get this information out to more people. With all that said, let's move on with today's episode. Hello and welcome to this latest episode of the Human Momentum Podcast. Today, I want to talk about a topic that brings cutting-edge medical research into contact with lifestyle medicine. What I want to talk about is a research article published in the Journal of the American Osteopathic Association this past fall that concerned something called methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, or MTHFR, which is a specific enzyme, and the gene coding for that enzyme and its effect on autism severity, potentially. It's interesting to me because I was concerned with MTHFR gene defects in their application to pain treatment. So it is something I had a fair amount of experience with and I would like to dive into. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my clinical experience later in the video, but first, let's discuss this research a little bit. To give you an idea exactly what we're talking about here, I think I need to go into a little bit of the physiology of MTHFR. This enzyme's function is to activate folate and something called cyanocobalamin, which we better know as B12. Without active MTHFR, we are unable to convert these vitamins into their active forms that our nerves and muscles and other cells need to act as cofactors in a whole bunch of important processes. There are two gene loci or places on our DNA that code for this particular enzyme. There is one that is designated C677T and another that is designated A1298C. Now, you don't have to remember those designations, but just know that there's two different spots on DNA where this enzyme is coded. And there are going to be two alleles or two specific genes at each of these loci, one coming from each of our parents. If just one of these is mutated, it does reduce MTHFR activity a little bit because of its effect on the shape of the enzyme. Where we see more profound effects are when there are mutated alleles on both gene loci at one spot, right? So if at the C locus, we have two mutated genes, then we see a much more profound effect than if there is only one there, or even a more profound effect than if we see one mutated copy at C and one at A. Another thing to know is that the first of those two loci, that C locus, has a little bit more effect on enzyme activity than the A locus. This particular research study used a large database of existing individuals who were being treated at a very large treatment center that focused on the treatment of disabled individuals. And what this allowed them to do is go back retrospectively and look back at individuals seen at this treatment center who were diagnosed with autism of different levels of severity, look at the severity data for just how bad is their autism, how disabling is it, and then compare that to genetic testing for MTHFR deficits. Using this, they came up with a metric for MTHFR activity versus autism severity. And what they found, in short, is that as MTHFR activity was reduced due to gene mutations, we tended to see an increased severity of autism. Now, let's be clear. This is correlational data. It is not proof of causation. So we don't know if there are additional factors that are causing there to be this relationship. However, it does raise some interesting possibilities for research going forward. What we do know clinically in other realms is that when individuals have multiple gene defects in the MTHFR genes, that if we supplement them with methylfolate and methylcobalamin, they seem to do better. The question is, can we have similar effects giving these supplements to young children recently diagnosed with autism who have these gene defects? And can we equally have positive impacts on the incidence of autism if we give these supplements to pregnant women who have these gene defects? The short answer is we just don't know. But it does raise interesting questions for further research. The other thing I would like to comment on is these sorts of genetic defects, these gene mutations, are absolutely not a potential cause of the increase in autism rate that we've seen over the past 50 years. We do not believe that the rate at which we see these gene defects has changed at all in that time. And most researchers now do agree that we cannot explain the entirety of that increase in autism rate by changes in diagnostic criteria for autism, of which there have been substantial changes that certainly account for some of that rate increase over the last 50 years. And we can account for it by increased awareness in practitioners, parents, and teachers. Certainly, if we go back 50 years, there were a lot of kids who actually were autistic that weren't being diagnosed. That would be today, but that doesn't account for all of it. If you're interested in some of the things that researchers do believe could be causing an increase in autism rate, check out the video that I produced previously on that topic with the link in the description to this video. I will also have a link to this particular research paper we're discussing in the video. In any case, what I'd like to move on to is my clinical experience with MTHFR gene deficits. I had a number of patients who were coming to me for ongoing pain issues that I was treating with osteopathic manipulative interventions. And many of these individuals were having a lot of trouble getting sustained relief. And it just wasn't fitting the usual pattern I would see with my patients. Now, when I began to test people for these MTHFR gene mutations, because of research I had stumbled upon and because a colleague of mine turned me on to it, I found that there were a number of individuals that I wasn't having success with who did indeed have these gene mutations. And when I began to have them take methylfolate and methylcobalamin supplements, they suddenly started to get better and respond in a more typical way. This made it something that I would routinely check in individuals who did not have the anticipated response to pain or had unexplained fatigue in concert with what seemed like nerve or muscle spasm symptoms. That was the population that I saw these gene defects crop up in rather regularly. And as I mentioned at the outset of this video, these mutations are common. We believe now, and by we, I mean the medical research community believes, based on large scale research, that 60 to 70% of the US population has at least one mutated copy in these genes. And so this is something we can certainly make a case for continuing to track. In any case, if you are somebody who is having ongoing pain issues, or if you are somebody who is concerned about the potential for having an autistic child, this is something to discuss with the physicians taking care of you. Certainly, this data isn't on a level to make a universal recommendation. It just isn't. It is suggestive. It isn't definitive about any of it. Hope this helps. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, especially if it's your first time here, please do subscribe to the channel and certainly like the video and share it with people you know who may have interest in it. It really does help me continue to do this on a regular basis. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.